You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
Back to recording a podcast in a quiet surrounding with a dog laying at my feet and a lot of normalcy for this week's episode of the show before the show. It's a marked change from last week.
A lot of calm normalcy. There's no crazy like vendors coming through your apartment today.
There's no weird, terrible, bizarre covers of American pop songs playing over the background audio for the show. It's really good. It's all very good.
This is a very professional podcast that we do
reality,
week in and week out.
We sound like people who attempt to be knowing what we're doing, something like that. So hey, with that, we say hi and we welcome you into this week's episode of the show before the show from MILB.com. We're talking all things minor league baseball this week. My name is Tyler Maughan. Sam Dykstra is in New York City. Hello, Sam. How are you?
Hello, Tyler. It is good to have you back on American soil. After, if anybody doesn't know, we talked about this before, but like you had a heck of a couple weeks working your butt off on behalf of really international baseball on the whole.
Yeah.
Between the Premier 12 tournament, both in Mexico and in Japan. Now you're back in Denver. But just kind of reflect on that journey. What was that like watching? So many teams fight for Olympic spots, some of them falling short before they even made it to Japan. Team USA fell short in Japan in that bronze medal game against Mexico, which was a heck of a game in itself. But what was it just like watching that and being part of it as a broadcaster?
It was pretty amazing, man. It was, Sunday night, I'm sitting there broadcasting a game next to JP Morosi of MLB Network and Alex Cohen, who came on as one of our additional broadcasters for this tournament, who's the radio voice of the Iowa Cubs at the AAA level. And, we're just sitting there, and it was like every half inning, at the inning break, we would take off our headsets and just talk to each other about the atmosphere. There were 45,000 people there. Japanese baseball, much like, Korean baseball and Taiwanese baseball and baseball in Latin America, it is a party. They take America's most boring sport and make it into the coolest, quote unquote, most boring sport, as the hot takers would have you think, and they turn it into a fan experience like you would never imagine. It's really pretty indescribable. The Samurai Japan is the name of the national team there, and the fans of that team in the offensive half innings, they sing or chant or do dances or do cheers for every single player. They're all specific to that player. They are definitely loud. They have horns, they have drums, they have noisemakers. It is incredible. And doing games in front of 45,000 people, with the vast majority of them taking part in that, was just, I tweeted out that night, when I was in college, I was fortunate enough to do a college football game. I went to the University of Nebraska. We had a game against Missouri in which Nebraska clinched the Big 12 North. This is how long ago that was. We were back in the Big 12 still. But there were 85,000 people there. And I remember thinking to myself at 21 years old, like, I wonder when or if I'll ever get to a point in my broadcasting life where I do something that rivals this atmosphere. And being in the Tokyo Dome on Sunday for that championship game between Korea and Japan was like nothing I've ever experienced, certainly in my broadcast life, but even just in my baseball life. There were a ton of really interesting teams, intriguing rosters, some really fascinating runs through the tournament. The United States fell to Mexico in the opening round, so ended up being the second-place team coming out of Group A, moving on to the quote-unquote super round, and then on to Championship Sunday. They played in the bronze medal game, and the way that the tournament worked was the top finisher from Asia and the second place finisher from Asia, if the top finisher was Japan, that team would move on to the Olympics, and the top team from the Americas region would move on to the Olympics. And the United States and Mexico ended up squaring off head-to-head for an Olympic berth in the bronze medal game. They go to the bottom of the ninth. Mexico, trailing 2-1, ends up tying it. They go to the 10th. The U.S. blows the international tiebreaker opportunity, similar to the minor league tiebreaker opportunity, starting with runners at first and second in the top of the 10th. The U.S. got nothing. And you kind of sign your own death warrant in that circumstance. If you are unable to get at least one run in that first and second nobody out situation. So Mexico goes to the bottom of the 10th. Just a crazy atmosphere. Efrain Navarro, a former 50th round draft pick back in the start of his professional career, who has been playing in Asia the last couple of years, has been playing in Japan. He ends up walking it off and winning it for Mexico, and just an unbelievable game. The U.S. team, I think, has to be extremely disappointed with how it showed over there, especially in the super round and beyond. The offense just never really came alive. They pitched relatively well, but just not an offensive threat, which is so strange when you look at that roster going in. But it just never materialized. They played well, especially on the offensive side in Mexico, hit a ton of home runs through the first 3 days of the tournament, but then went pretty quiet in Tokyo. And so now for USA baseball fans, that team has 2 more chances to qualify for the Olympics. It's a very drawn-out Olympic qualification process for baseball going back in the Olympics next July and August. There will be an Americas qualifier in Arizona coming up in March, which will feature a handful of teams that were just announced this week. If the United States does not win that qualifier, they will get one more opportunity, provided that they finish second or third in that qualifier. They'll get one more opportunity in a final global qualifying event, which will be in Taiwan the first week in April. But even though there are still chances left, very difficult to build a roster for USA Baseball at that stage. They are not allowed to use 40-man players, and it's going to be the start of the minor league season, so the availability of players is going to be somewhat in question as well. So their best opportunity was really to win that game against Mexico last Sunday, and it didn't come through for them. So as of right now, 4 teams are in the 6-team field for the Olympics next year. Japan is the host country, Israel, which won the Europe and Africa qualifier back in September, and then Korea, which came out as the second-place finishers in Premier 12, but the top finishers out of the Asia and Oceania region that were not Japan, and Mexico coming out of the Americas. So 2 more spots remain to be filled. 1 will come from that Americas qualifier. 1 will come from the global qualifier that follows. But it was a ton of fun, man, and being involved in this stuff is the coolest thing that has ever happened to me in my career, and going over to do games at the Tokyo Dome, like, it just I can't even describe it. It literally felt like I was just walking around in a dream for a week. It was insane.
I mean, they have made movies about people walking around in Tokyo making it feel like a dream.
Yeah, basically. Which pretty much, I was very Bill Murray and Lost in Translation, because I slept horribly the entire week, which has led to a lot of great sleep getting back home to my own bed, which has been fun. But it's one of those things where I also, for those of you who are familiar, I broadcast for the University of Denver Pioneers. I do hockey and basketball for them. We've got a basketball road trip. We leave tomorrow. So on Saturday, I'll be doing a college basketball game at UC Riverside, 6 days after I was doing a game in front of 45,000 people at the Tokyo Dome. So that's going to be quite a weird juxtaposition. But hey, man, we get paid to write and to talk about sports, and there's really not anything cooler than that in life. So pretty fun. And JP Morosi, I got to work with in Mexico. He was my color guy in Mexico, my color guy for a handful of games in Japan. Could not be what you think JP Morosi is when you follow him on social media. You see him on MLB Network. He is like that, and somehow even better than that. He is just a consummate professional, the ultimate gentleman, the friendliest dude on earth. He's awesome. If you're a JP Morosi fan, I'm here to tell you it is 1,000,000% justified in all of your JP Morosi fandom. We also, Ryan Roland Smith, who people may remember as a reliever in the big leagues and a starter in the big leagues, but with the Mariners and with the D-backs and with others, Ryan came over as well. He's now a member of the Mariners studio team and sometimes the broadcast booth as well. Ryan, the same way, just the coolest guy you can meet, friendliest, extraordinarily talented, really, really good in the booth. But he's only been at it really for a year, a little bit over a year, and just so hungry to learn and get better at being a broadcaster, which I really admire. So we got to work with some great guys. Alex Cohen, as well as I mentioned, the radio voice of the Iowa Cubs, who was fantastic to work with on the championship game, and a couple other former minor league guys, Andrew Reynolds, who is now with the Australian Baseball League, and Craig Durham as well, who I've done so many of these WBSC tournaments with. We had a really great crew over there, and I went viral for a tweet about fried chicken. It's weird. Everything's weird. Had a tweet about Japanese convenience store fried chicken that led, like a few days later, to that convenience store's like PR people contacting me to thank me for tweeting about how good their fried chicken was. I don't. You Darvish retweeted it somehow. I don't get it. I don't get the internet, man.
The internet works in very, very strange ways. It's just
weird and mysterious ways.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. But hey, so baseball now is kind of over for 2019. It's really not. I mean, we've got winter leagues going on. The Australian Baseball League just started up yesterday. But it's, it's technically today, I guess, in Australia that the ABL started. It started on Thursday. But we're sort of into the dead period, which, well, not a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, but like think about what we're about to talk about here in Strike One. Like the season may be over, but it's crazy how things picked up in terms of roster news and we're not going to talk about it here, but like today's the day when Yasmani Grandal signed with the White Sox. Yeah. Free agency is picking up earlier so far. The Braves are making relief signings. The idea that things are just going to cool down hasn't shown its head so far in 2019, which is very, very welcome after some cold stoves to start the years in the past. But no matter what, November 20th is always going to be a big day in major and minor league baseball.
Let's get started on 3 Strikes for this week's episode of the Show Before the Show, where we discuss all things minor league baseball. This is a big week for top prospects and other prospects around the game in which 40-man roster decisions had to be made. And coming up here in just a little bit, we will hear from one of those guys who had his 40-man roster status upgraded and confirmed. Ben Braymer, who's the 15th ranked prospect in the Washington Nationals organization, added to his team's 40-man roster. These decisions that we'll discuss on Strike One protect players from the Rule 5 draft. So if you are in that sweet spot of your pro career where you are entering Rule 5 draft eligibility and you have to be protected on the 40-man roster, this is a big time for some of those guys. A lot of top prospects were added to 40-man squads around Major League and Minor League Baseball on big league 40-man rosters now, some of the top talents in the game. Sam, give us a rundown of who really stood out to you for Strike One.
Yeah, let's just talk about first what the sweet spot is for this, because I think every year we get tweets about, well, why wasn't Adley Rutschman protected?
Right.
Because he wasn't eligible. That's not how this works. So eligibility is at its very basest terms, and then there's some ways we can get around this. But if you signed or were drafted when you were 18 or younger and you have been in pro ball for 5 seasons, you are Rule 5 eligible. If you signed or were drafted when you were 19 or older and have been in minor league baseball for 4 seasons, you are Rule 5 eligible. So this year it was pretty much college guys from the 2016 draft or before, or high schoolers or international signees from the 2015 season or before. That's kind of very loosely, and again, so there's some chances sometimes guys get signed after the DSL season, whatever. But that, just to set up the basis there, that those are guys who had to be on 40-man rosters before Wednesday in order to be protected from the Rule 5 draft. Top 100 guys, everybody went protected. So that's Christian Pache, Sixto Sanchez, Brian Hayes, Vidal Brujan, Jazz Chisholm, O'Neill Cruz, Davey Garcia, Ryan Mountcastle, Tristan McKenzie, Esteban Florial, Miguel Amaya, Andres Jimenez, and Edward Cabrera. No drama there. No drama was really expected. Even if these guys aren't major league ready, you're still going to protect them. I'm looking at somebody like Miguel Amaya, played all year at Class A Advanced Myrtle Beach, but has the future of a major league catcher. You're not going to let him sit there because it's very easy for some of these non-competitive teams next year to swoop in, keep them on the major league roster for the full year, and then, hey, you've got a top 100 talent basically stowed away on what's going to be a 26-man roster for 2020. So top 100 guys all went protected. Some of the other storylines that I was kind of keeping an eye on as things went on, you mentioned Ben Braymer with the Washington Nationals. The Nationals actually had 10 open 40-man spots. They only protected Braymer, which was the one guy. We'll talk to him about that, about why that was special for him. But that's notable because, obviously the Nationals, Steven Strasburg is a free agent right now. Anthony Rendon is a free agent right now. Howie Kendrick is a free agent right now. Gerardo Parra just signed it overseas. So they have a lot of openings. They're probably going to try to fill those with major league spots. But it was really interesting to me to see that they had, I think, 7 top 30 prospects eligible for this year's draft. They only protect one of them. Tells you what they think of Braymer for sure. But that was really interesting for anybody who was following me on Twitter. I was saying throughout the day, as long as they're protected before 8 p.m., it doesn't matter when they announce. So if they announce a name early, they can still announce names later. I thought they were going to protect more. They ended up not doing that. The Seattle Mariners and San Francisco Giants didn't protect anybody They didn't make any moves, which is really fascinating. Not necessarily for the groups of prospects that they had. I thought the Seattle Mariners may have protected L.J. Newsome, a guy with incredible control, really had a breakout 2019, climbed 3 levels, can really pinpoint where he's going to throw the ball. His stuff isn't the best in the world. They probably didn't think a major league team was going to bet on that, but maybe they will, and we'll get into that in strike 2. Giants, I didn't quite see it. There was Garrett Williams, a left-handed pitcher who had pitched to AA, but has some serious control problems. Not a big surprise there. The team I think we should have all been talking about the most was the New York Yankees. They protected all 6 of their top 30 prospects, but it was going to take some 40-man gymnastics to make that happen. Those 6 prospects being Davy Garcia, Esteban Florial, who we already mentioned, Luis Gil, Nick Nelson, Luis Medina, and Miguel Yajure. An interesting mix of stuff and results there. Gil and Medina have 2 of the best fastballs in that system, and there's a lot of velocity in the Yankee system right now. Yajure was very, very good last year wherever he went, and Nelson also put up some good numbers. I think he reached AA. But they ended up releasing Jacoby Ellsbury. They're going to pay him, I think it's something like $26 million, essentially.
Quite a bit of money.
Yeah, just to get him off the roster completely because they believe in these 6 guys. And they also added Brooks Kriske. So there were 7 guys they added. They also DFA'd Greg Bird, who at one point was going to be the first baseman of the future for the Yankees, has had some serious foot injuries the last couple of years. He's found it difficult to stay off. He's moving off at some point. We'll find out where he's going to go. I don't think he's going to take an assignment somewhere. I think he's going to either be picked up on waivers or signed with another club. But the Yankees were willing to make those moves with, at times, established major league talent because they believe in these really young pitchers, specifically, and you throw on Florial, who I know has had his own contact rate issues and has only reached AA for the playoffs a couple of years ago. But they still believe in him. A lot of people still believe in him. He just needs to figure out that contact rate. So seeing the Yankees protect all 6 of their ranked prospects was really, really interesting to me. Check out, we have a table it was a running table. Now it's completed. Every prospect ranked among the top 30 by MLB.com that was protected on the 40-man. We have them there with some notes along there. If you're worried about, hey, did my team not protect its top 100 talent, it's probably for a good reason. But in terms of individual pockets of who protected who, I think those are the standouts. The Yankees getting all those guys in, the Giants and Mariners choosing not to protect anybody, and the Nats choosing only to protect one when they had so much space.
And the flip side of that is strike 2. The guys who stood out most to you who were not protected yesterday.
Yeah, so we'll get into this more as the Rule 5 draft comes up, and this is going to require a little bit more research and diving deeper into it. But going back to the Washington Nationals, I thought it was pretty well established that they were going to protect Sterling Sharp, their number 11 prospect. Sharp had kind of a difficult season. He was number 13 prospect. Excuse me, I read my notes wrong. He had a little bit of a difficult season. He missed extended time with an oblique injury, reached as high as AA, actually had a very good Arizona Fall League. We've had him on the podcast before. He's a very athletic guy. We talked to him about playing in the dunk contest. What stands out to me about Sharp is that he is one of the elite ground ball getters, I guess you want to call it, whatever, ground ball pitchers in minor league baseball. In today's game in which so many hitters are taught, hey, get the ball in the air, elevate as much as you can, he gets them to drive it down straight into the ground pretty consistently. I think that would have some value. And again, his strikeout numbers were there in the AFL. I know AFL stats aren't everything, but the fact that he came off the oblique injury and showed the stuff the way he did was really promising. I thought he would have been protected as a guy who played a lot of the year at AA. That ended up not being the case, so I'll be interested to see if anybody bites on him. And then you kind of have to pocket it in terms of who wasn't protected and for what reason. There are pockets of guys who we've always thought of as talented and either are coming off rough years or are too far away. I'm thinking about like Shervyen Newton of the New York Mets organization. He played at Class A Columbia this year. Mets basically banking on teams thinking like, hey, we can't store this young infielder. We can't just jump him from Class A straight to the majors and keep him on the roster for a full year. It's happened before. Don't get me wrong, but it's more difficult to do that, if they're coming at it from a low spot, and especially coming off kind of a rough year for him. Luis Oviedo in the Cleveland Indians system was at one point one of the top arms for the Indians. He had a rough year at Class A Lake County. I think the stuff is still there. I think a lot of people still believe in the stuff, but the Indians are banking on teams saying, like, okay, we can't carry Oviedo for a full season, even when rosters expand to 26 men next year. And then there's some other. Wander Javier is kind of, I think, the perfect example of this. There was a time when Twins prospects, and if you get into any type of prospect chat with Twins fans, they'll always bring up Wander Javier. He was supposed to be Royce Lewis before Royce Lewis is who he is now. Had a really rough year, had some injuries that knocked him out for basically all of 2018, did not return especially well. If you want to bank on the talent still being there, maybe somebody jumps at him and get a better look. Given what his prospect status was 2 years ago, you would never think he would have been in this position. But he really, really struggled this year with Cedar Rapids. I find it difficult to think somebody's going to take him, but it might be the biggest name that was left unprotected. Alec Hansen at one point with the Chicago White Sox was one of the top pitching prospects in all of baseball, was striking everybody out left and right. He's dealt with some health issues the last couple of years and has not been the same pitcher since. He's moved to the bullpen at times this year, has really struggled with his control, can't find the strike zone. When he does, the stuff is there, but it's going to take a serious bet that he can actually throw strikes consistently. I don't see that happening yet. That's why the White Sox left him unprotected. Maybe a team who, has an empty bullpen spot and says, hey, we're going to be the ones to fix Alec Hansen. We've found something we can fix. There's a potential jump there. And then there's some of the guys who are at the upper levels who are really good performers, but they might not be great prospects. They might not have the tools, but from my view, kind of look major league ready. Roberto Ramos from the Colorado Rockies system is that guy. I think he was the number 30 prospect. He's ranked very low, but in terms of raw power, it's always there for him. Maybe he finds a spot in an AL organization willing to take him on in the draft. They can DH him because defense is a bit of a struggle for him, but we'll have to keep an eye on that. Zach Brown, formerly of this podcast, he's been on this show before, was the top pitching prospect in the Milwaukee Brewers system, really struggled at AAA this year, but was still there, and he's pitching in the PCL, which is really difficult. The Brewers apparently didn't see enough. Maybe another team will. Maybe they can make him into a reliever, something like that. But somebody who had made it to AAA with some decent stuff, those usually are a sign that you will get protected. Zach Brown does not. It's an interesting mix. We'll continue to put this together as Rule 5 comes up, and we can dive a little bit deeper into this. The first round is just who gets protected. That's all I'm focused on. Now it's okay, who kind of fits certain scenarios, which teams could potentially make multiple picks. That's happened before. The Orioles did it last year. San Diego Padres famously took 3 guys a couple of years ago. It's certainly possible. We'll have more on the Rule 5 draft the closer we get to the winter meetings.
And strike 3 this week, we continue our postseason award recognition, Milbies and all the rest. Really no surprise here for strike 3. Farm System of the Year. I believe every single one of our ballots named the Tampa Bay Rays as the Farm System of the Year because the Rays have an obscene amount of talent. It seems like pretty much everybody in that system was really good this year. Not a real big surprise here.
Yeah, no, not at all. Like you said, it was unanimous amongst MILB.com voting staff. Going through this, I mean, when you put together the resume of the Rays this year, it's second to none. Obviously, we named it Best Farm System of the Year, but this isn't necessarily like our farm system rankings, which are coming out in a couple months. We do that every offseason, although the Rays will definitely rank highly in that. This was more about what kind of year did you have as an organization at the minor league levels? How did your teams perform? How did your prospects perform? What level of prospects do you have? Did teams make the playoffs? What was your collective winning percentage? And every time we did that and we put the Rays through that rubric, they consistently ranked at the top or near the top. Their top 5 affiliates, the AAA Durham Bulls, the AA Montgomery Biscuits, Class A Advanced Charlotte Stone Crabs, Class A Bowling Green Hot Rods, and Class A Short Season Hudson Valley Renegades all made the playoffs. That's crazy. Collectively, their winning percentage was the best. That's not a huge surprise, but when you talk about multiple teams, the fact that the Rays affiliates won 58.1% of their games in 2019 is incredible. You look at the prospect talent, I think they have 6 top 100 prospects right now, which is tied for the most in baseball. And, that's Wander Franco, Brendan McKay, Vidal Brujan, who we've already mentioned, Matthew Liberatore, Brent Honeywell, and Shane Baz. Ronaldo Hernandez was a top 100 prospect at one point. He's number 7. Greg Jones was their first pick this year. He's at number 8. Shane McClanahan was a top pick. He was 31st overall in 2018. He's number 9. J.J. Goss was the 36th overall pick in 2019. He's number 10. I mean, these are guys who would be leading other systems, and they're in the back half of the top 10 for the Rays. And, oh, by the way, I mentioned him in passing, but Wander Franco, the consensus number 1 overall prospect in the game, is in this system. The Rays, the last couple of years, they tinker pretty well at the major league level, try to figure out how guys can, work in their system. They are usually credited with the team that developed the opener. But the reason why they're so successful is they get this talent in and they know how to develop it. They know how to turn these guys into major leaguers and how to make their tools work at the top level and at every level going up. It's really impressive to see, and it's impressive to, that it is so top to bottom, their success. I do want to point out one thing, though. Mitch Lukovics, who's been on this podcast before, is one of the all-time great quotes in minor league baseball. The guy's been around forever. He was the Rays director of minor league operations. He's moving elsewhere in the front office. That director of minor league operations job is going to Jeff McLaren. But before he left for that, he talked to our Josh Jackson about it. He gave this quote that I really like. When you talk about having the number 1 farm system, you're talking about 100 people, 200 people besides the players. I don't know, but it's a total organization success. It goes from the ownership to the clubbies that are instrumental in what we do. It sounds corny, but I've been in this. This is my 45th year. I firmly believe in this. This is how it's done. So it's not just taking your top prospects and making sure they're fondled and making sure they're comfortable and doing everything they need to do. It's taking the Wander Francos all the way down to guys at the bottom levels and even clubbies and other people involved in these organizations and making sure they're able to do their best work. That's how you turn out a winning organization. The Rays historically are not going to be a team that's going to spend at the major league level, but they're going to get here because of an organizational philosophy. They're going to compete in the playoffs and make it as far as they do because they have this philosophy from top to bottom. It's really impressive to see. Check out Josh's story for more from Mitch Lukovics about how they make this system work and how they've turned out what was really really impressive 2019. But yeah, when we were making our votes for this, there was only really one farm system we could all vote for, and that was the Tampa Bay Rays.
And that is 3 strikes for this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. Coming up, we're going to the Washington Nationals organization where Ben Braymer awaits to talk about his status as one of the newest members of a big league roster across baseball. Ben Braymer joins the show next. Well, big week this week for prospects all around the world of baseball as the 40-man deadline arrived. And joining us on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show is the 15th ranked prospect in the Washington Nationals organization, Ben Braymer, who got some great news about his roster status this week. Ben, what's going on, man? How are you?
Hey, I'm great. Really appreciate y'all having me on. I'm excited about yesterday and the news that I was fortunate to receive. And it's just a really exciting time for me and my family right now. So.
Well, take us through that process. You're added to the 40-man roster, protected from the Rule 5 draft, and obviously it's so much more than just that. I mean, those are kind of the practicalities of it, but what it says about how an organization views you, where you are in your career has got to be really, really exciting. Last year you make it up to AAA. Take us through kind of the process of how you found out about that yesterday and maybe some of the anxiety of going into yesterday and then getting that news, and I would imagine the relief and the excitement that comes along with it.
Yeah, no doubt. It was. I was sweating it for a while. I figured I had a decent shot of that happening. I hadn't heard anything definitive, so I was just waiting on a phone call, so to say. Very thankful I got that phone call, but Yeah, no, it's a huge honor for me, and I'm very humbled that they think enough of me to add me to the roster, and especially with them coming off of a World Series championship, I think that's huge. And as a competitor, I think, at least through my eyes, that you play the game to win, and there's a lot of things that go into that, and the fact that they think that I'm close to helping them do so is extremely humbling, and I'm very excited about it and thankful for the opportunity. And I guess now the work just continues to go on and increases from here. So
when you are in a spot where you're in an off season, you're kind of working on next year, but something like this is still looming. I mean, obviously, it's not going to change your preparation or your workouts or anything like that. But having that in the back of your mind all off season, what is that like? There's not a whole lot of other businesses that can really relate to that. Of if these people don't make this decision about my status, there's a chance that somebody just come pluck me along coming up next month. I mean, what's that whole process like? Kind of wading through I would imagine the agony of some of that.
To be honest with you, I really didn't start to think about it much until the last few days, probably like the last week or so. I've always, I guess, kind of had a gift to block things out, so to say, and really just focus on things that I could control. And that's really what I tried to do. And leading up to this and throughout the off season and throughout last season as well. And it's something I kind of try and live by. And so I was able to help myself out by doing that, and just kind of trying to block out any noise that may come along with the impending decisions and whatnot. So that was beneficial for me. But yeah, it's pretty crazy to think about how it all works. Like friends and family back home ask, hey, what does this mean? How's this go on, proceed, whatever. And it's honestly kind of tough to explain. I Googled a link to figure out like a little cheat sheet on how to explain it, and that's kind of just what I would send them, because there's a lot of details, as y'all know, and I really didn't fully understand it all until probably a couple of years ago, and I had a couple friends go through it. So.
Yeah, that actually dovetails kind of nicely into what my question was going to be is logistically, what does this change about things for you? I mean, there's things we could tick off. There's no more invitation to spring training. You are a pitcher that goes to the major league side of spring training to start. There's bump and pay, there's union stuff involved. But for your focus, when you hear that, when you got that phone call yesterday, logistically, what do you see happening next, or what does this do for your career?
I think it obviously puts me in a great position to hopefully contribute to the national success sooner than later. I fully believe in myself and my ability to do that as a player on the field and as a guy in the clubhouse. And, every day that I train here in the off season, and that's something that I'm working towards. And that's something that's driving me to be the best that I can be. Not only for, me and my family, but for those guys as well, because every single one of those guys deserves it. Family deserves it. And, that's something that's going to fuel me and propel me to doing so. And, just from what I think it could bring me is just obviously, with the things that you just mentioned, as far as, being part of the union now and, all the pay stuff that goes along with that and whatnot. And, I think that's a great position for me to be in. It's for anybody to be in, and it's something we all work towards. And I'm just, very thankful to be in that position.
And let's get into a little bit about what allowed you to get into this position in terms of your 2019 season. You were coming off a strong 2018. You were co-Nationals Pitcher of the Year for the minor leagues. You start out the year at Harrisburg, some really nice numbers there, 2.51 ERA in 79 innings, a 0.97 whip. You move up to AAA Fresno. Things got a little hairy from there. Happened to a lot of people at AAA this year, obviously, and especially in the PCL with a 7.2 ERA there. But how do you feel like you grew the most, going back from spring training to this point now that kind of forced the Nationals' hand to add you to that 40-man roster?
Something I kind of touched on earlier was controlling things that you can control. I think that focusing on that's way more important than setting individual individual statistical goals, at least in my opinion. And I think that whenever I got moved up to Fresno, it's, there's a lot of factors that go into that league out there that can, I guess, derail an outing for a pitcher, so to say. And sometimes it can be very tough to block out, those things and to, I guess, flush them, over the course of an outing and after it happens. And, I think whenever I first got up there, I struggled with that for a little bit because it was, it was pretty defeating, and you're facing better competition and whatnot, and more experienced competition for sure. And I think once I was able to get over that hump mentally and get back to what has allowed me to reach this point, which is just, focus on the things that I have control over. How am I going to react to things that happen? How is my attitude, my work ethic, all that type of stuff. And whenever I was able to, to kind of take a step back and realize that that's what I needed to get back to, even within the course of the outing, I think that's when I was able to get more comfortable and finish the year out strong. I think my last month of the season, I thought that I had improved a lot and grown a lot, and it started to show. And, by the end of the season, I really wish that I had, another month or two to keep pitching, because obviously I knew my stats weren't good. So I wanted to continue to prove myself in that league and against that level of competition. So I guess, the Nationals realized that and felt confident in my ability to do so and continue to do so and improve.
Ben, out of college, you go first to LSU Eunice, then you transfer to Auburn. You're an 18th round pick in 2016. And one thing that you've shown throughout your career at the collegiate level and at the professional level is you can kind of pitch in a bunch of different roles. I know that one season at Auburn, I think you only made 4 starts out of 21 appearances. You've pitched a little bit in relief as a professional, but obviously really good success as a starter. You made 26 appearances this year. All those were starts. Do you have a preference? I mean, there are so many different things that come along with each of those roles. Do you have a preference on which you like or which you feel like you're better with? And are you in a dogfight right now?
Yeah, my dogs are running around outside growling. Sorry about that.
No.
This is a dog-friendly podcast.
Yeah, this is a very
Totally
dog-safe
fine.
space. We're big fans.
That's funny. They're Rhodesian Ridgebacks, so they go crazy after each other sometimes. Oh my gosh, that's funny. No, I really don't have a preference, to be honest with you. I kind of really enjoyed bouncing back and forth between starting and relieving in 2018. I thought that it was a real big challenge for me mentally and physically, because there's different aspects to both. As a starter, you have you're on a 5-man rotation, so you have, 4 days to figure out what you need to do, figure out what works best for you. Are you a bullpen on day 2 or day 3 guy? And, what kind of arm care do you need to do? What's your weight program going to be like, so on and so forth. And then out of the bullpen, you kind of just have to base your routine off of how things go. In my opinion, like if you pitch 1 inning and you throw 14 pitches, you're probably going to be hot the next day, especially at the upper levels of the minors. And sometimes you might not be able to fit something in that you normally would want to, and kind of just got to roll with the punches. So I thought that challenged me in 2018, and I was thankful for it, because I was able to test some things out early on and figure out what worked best for me. And then this year, being my first year starting full time, I was pleased I was able to make all my starts this year and grow throughout that process and learn different things to implement. One of the things I was most thankful for was being teammates with a lot of guys that had been around the game for a while, had a lot of success at the highest levels. I think back to Harrisburg, and Aaron Barrett comes up, Spencer Keyboom, Dan Jennings, a lot of guys that have had a lot of success. And, for those guys to mentor us younger guys throughout this process and throughout the course of a season was helpful. And then whenever I got to Fresno, being around, Hoover and Copeland and Matt Reynolds and Snyder and CC and all those guys, they were very, very helpful for I know me and the other guys, the younger guys on the team, and being able to just pick their brains on things and and figure out, what they see in a pitcher or what a pitcher sees in a hitter was super helpful for me, because that's something that I hadn't really dived into before. And I realized then that I needed to be more cognizant of, scouting reports and picking up on tendencies and stuff like that. So, and as far as like I said, I really don't have a preference as far as the role goes. I think, as long as I'm on the mound healthy and competing, that's really all I can ask for. Whatever the Nationals think, whatever role they think I can help the team best in is what I'll do. And I'll never have a problem with that.
And when you are moving between starting and relieving, there are kind of two separate paths you're going to have to take. Sometimes as a reliever, you can be a 2-pitch guy. As a starter, you basically need to have at least 3 pitches. You have a fastball, a curveball, and changeup. How do you feel like those developed this year? Most scouting reports say your curveball is the best of those 3, but in terms of the whole package, how do you feel like your arsenal, took a step forward in 2019?
I think early on, I was doing a really good job of commanding my fastball in to both left and right-handed hitters. I think towards the end of the season, I got a little fatigued and my fastball command faltered. And whenever that happened, I felt like my changeup actually carried me the rest of the way. And then my curveball has always been my best pitch, or my put-away pitch. And, it's not going to be the best version of itself every time. So whenever the curveball is not biting like it should, then the changeup becomes that much more important. And, sometimes the changeup's not going to be there for you, and curveball might be nasty, but you're not able to spot it like you need to. So that's when fastball command is going to be even that much more important. And I think this year I experienced a lot of that, especially coming off of a long year in 2018. I felt at times that I might have just been overthinking a couple things with my pitch grips and stuff like that, just because I had been throwing nonstop for, pretty much 2 years, and things were starting to run together a little bit at the end. But I think it's very important to, mix things up. And I thought that, especially in AAA, towards the end, I was able to do a much better job of that. And I was actually really pleased with the continued development of my changeup towards the end of this past season. So, heading into next year, it's going to be continued emphasis on that, and, spotting the fastball and curveball as well.
And when you mentioned that changeup, I feel like that is the pitch that, if you develop that, you have a much better chance of sticking at a starter. What did you do at the end of the year to develop that, and what are you going to kind of carry into next spring to continue to round out that specific pitch?
So last year and for like the first part of this year, I was kind of throwing a hybrid 2-seam. It was pretty much a 2-seam changeup, and I thought I had success with it, but it looked totally different than my fastball because I only throw a 4-seam. And whenever I got to AAA, our pitching coach, Brad, started to tinker with the grip a little bit, just, because he was able to notice that the spin was just a little different, and some of the hitters were able to see that as well. And so he gave me this true 4-seam changeup grip, and it was definitely a little weird at first. You just have to grip it and, trust it whenever you release it. But I think that once he showed me that grip, that it was that proved to be a big difference for me and the success of that pitch and the continued development of it. And, like I said earlier, whenever I started to get fatigued at the end of the year and fell behind in some counts, that changeup really was huge for me. So.
Ben, you are now a member of a World Series champion organization, which is something that I think a lot of Nationals fans probably never imagined they would hear after some of the postseason heartbreak in years past. But what a run this year. And for those of us who are on the outside looking in, it was pretty cool to see the way, the fan base rallied around, obviously, especially getting past that wild card game and, kind of following along with Nationals prospects on social media and all that. What was it like from the inside watching through that run, through Game 7? Just take us through that from your perspective.
Yeah, that was super cool to see. I know how much those guys that were up there worked to, how hard they worked to get to that point, and how much they sacrificed, not only individually, but as a collective unit as well. And, to just see those guys have that success and, not dog pile, but, celebrate at the end was really cool. I think, something that I kept thinking about throughout that process was, as much as talent is a part of it, I think something that can be overlooked nowadays is just how important camaraderie within the clubhouse is. And I think that over the course of their run, it just became increasingly more evident how close of a group that those guys were. And ultimately, I think, in my opinion, at least, that was absolutely huge for them and allowed them to, win the World Series and have a lot of success collectively and individually. And I don't think you can put a price tag on that, to be honest with you.
All right, Ben. Well, Tyler just asked about the bigger picture with the Nationals. We're gonna end with a question more directed right at you. As Tyler mentioned before, you were an 18th round pick. You've gone through JUCO. You've gone through a big school. You've gone through basically every level of the minors, from the GCL now to the PCL. Now you are on a 40-man roster. Being an 18th round pick, guys taken there aren't usually expected to be major leaguers. You're one step away now. Do you allow yourself to look back at this road that's taken you to this spot? And if you do, what is the most memorable aspect of this run that you've had? Like I said, going from a junior college to now one step away from the show.
Yeah, I think I definitely look back on my journey here sometimes, and I don't think that's a bad thing by any means. I think sometimes you need to do that, or I need to do that, to realize what I have gone through and the sacrifices that not only I've made, but my friends and family have made to help me get here. And it's important for me to never forget those things, and that kind of has fueled me throughout this journey. And I feel like I've always kind of been overlooked, so to say, in my career. I haven't gone JUCO. That was my only option out of high school, and then being overlooked a little bit in JUCO throughout the recruiting process. And ultimately, very fortunate the Nationals saw enough in me to draft me in the 18th round. But still then, like you said, guys drafted past a certain point, there's not much expectation there. So I think, a big thing for me has been, I've just really had a chip on my shoulder throughout the whole process. That's fueled me to work hard and, maximize the abilities that I do have, and to represent, my family throughout that process, and, now the Nationals as well. And, moving forward, that's going to stay the same. I'm going to still be fueled by the same things, and, keep my head up and my blinders on and just go to work, and continue to emphasize controlling the things that I can control and maximizing, the abilities that God gave me, and do so just, as best as I can.
That is some pretty cool stuff. Ben Braymer is a 15th ranked prospect in the Washington Nationals organization, and as of yesterday is a member of the 40-man roster in that system. And Ben, congrats on the news and all the success, and enjoy the rest of the offseason and the holidays, and best of luck. We'll be following along next year.
Absolutely. Thank you all for having me on. I really appreciate it. Happy Thanksgiving.
Benjamin Hill joins the show. A little Easter egg. If you go back to 3 strikes, you can hear when Ben walked in, and you can point that out to us. Time stamp it, and we will give you nothing. I don't know. If I get that big...
I was going to say, don't make any promises here, Mon.
If I get that big Japanese fried chicken money, maybe I'll mail you a Lawson's t-shirt or something. Hi, Ben.
Hi, Tyler, and hello, Sam. Sitting to my left in conference room 5V, as in victory.
Okay. I thought there was going to be something spicier than victory. I was like, all I can think of is victory. So,
yeah. Well, let's get started. The batting around column is up this week at MILB.com, and it concerns 4 new ballparks that will open in the 2020 season. The Cannonballers, the Trash Pandas, the Wind Surge, and the Fred Nats, the Fredericksburg Nationals, all moving into new ballparks, new homes in 2020. This is the most in a while for a single season, correct, Ben? The first since 2009 in which we've had 4 or more ballparks?
Yeah, I maintain a spreadsheet on ballpark openings, which I think was a result of a story during research for a story I did a year or two back. But now I just keep that spreadsheet because it's handy to look back and see what ballparks opened in what year and how many ballparks opened in different years. So 4 ballparks in 2020 is the most since 2009 when 5 ballparks opened, and 6 if you count Charlotte Sports Park, which was a major league spring training facility, but that also served as a minor league ballpark as well for the Charlotte Stone Crabs. So anyway, we're saying goodbye to this decade, which, what do we call this decade? The teens plus?
I guess the teens, the 20 teens.
Yeah, we're saying goodbye to this decade, and throughout that entire decade, 2010 to 2019, we never opened minor league baseball never opened 4 ballparks in one season. You have to go back to 2009 to when they did more. So 2020 is a pretty banner year for new ballparks. And, we've talked about all these teams throughout the years and throughout the offseason and going back to last season. And, I kind of wrote a version of this same article about a year ago. But now I felt it was time to go back and update it now that we're only a few months out from opening day, providing updates on the ballpark construction. And now, just as of last week, we now have a team name associated with all these new ballparks because, when the offseason started, of these 4 new ballparks, the only team name we knew prior to this offseason was that Rocket City, who are playing in the greater Huntsville area in Madison. We knew they were the Trash Pandas, but it's been this offseason that we learned that Fredericksburg, is going to be the Nationals. The Fred Nats. We learned that Kannapolis is the Cannonballers, and we learned that Wichita is the Wind Surge. So a lot of these rebrandings have been done in conjunction with moving to a new ballpark, and that's another good question. I don't know the answer, but I'll try to get it on Twitter when I look it up. But what was the last time a team moved into a new ballpark and didn't rebrand? That's a good question too. Good question. Good question by me, and I'll try to come up with the answer to that. And also another interesting thing, once I go down these little rabbit holes, I like these little bits of trivia. It's also kind of interesting, and it's been many years since this happened. I think according to my notes, since at least 2005, when a ballpark at 4 different levels of play opened. And we have a AAA ballpark, Wichita, Pacific Coast League. We have a AA ballpark, Rocket City, Southern League. We have a Class A advanced ballpark, Fredericksburg, in the Carolina League, and we have a Class A ballpark, Kannapolis, in the South Atlantic League. So these 4 new ballparks are, spread out across 4 levels of play. And why do such little factoids give me, if not joy, they give me a little what's that chemical in your brain?
Dopamine.
Endorphin jolt.
No, dopamine is
dopamine. That's it. Yeah, I get a little dopamine jolt from these kind of facts, and I hope if you're listening, you do too. I hope our dopamine levels have been raised together, and we're all surging right now.
Endorphins come from working out, so I don't know how much hard work you put into these spreadsheets, but maybe there's a little endorphins in there too.
Yeah, probably not. I haven't been working out very much. In fact, November 11th, I had my last fall league softball game, and I pulled my hamstring and during my first at bat and ended the season on the bench due to injuries. So
that was November 11th, right?
That was November 11th.
So that was 10 days ago. You're off the 10-day IL now. You feeling ready to come off the IL?
I'm feeling ready, and I need an endorphin rush. So I gotta plan a workout and show my body who's boss.
And one thing to kind of focus on with these level of stories is bringing baseball back to certain areas. Sometimes it's kind of shifting. Kannapolis, it's just going to another part of the area. Fredericksburg, kind of another part of the area. But Wichita is something completely new. How have you seen people kind of take on the new stadium? And with the Wind Surge being, the logos we talked about, the new rebranding, but building a whole new stadium in that area, bringing baseball, minor league baseball, to Kansas is going to be huge. What has been the kind of reaction to that stadium?
Yeah, I mean, I think with these 4 ballparks, as you said, Kannapolis, just moving to a new ballpark, but minor league baseball has been there for a long time. Rocket City is in Huntsville, greater Huntsville area, and Huntsville had minor league baseball all the way up through 2014 with the Stars. I'm not sure if Fredericksburg has had a team specifically, but that's only 30 miles away from their previous location of Woodbridge, and that general area is no stranger to minor league baseball. So Wichita here is the one where it's like, wow, this is minor league baseball will seem freshest and most exciting. You don't have to go back too far to find the last time Wichita had minor league baseball in 2007, but that's still 13-year absence. absence. And it's a pretty long absence, especially, think if you were a kid. Think if you were born in 2007 or so. You've lived your whole life until now without a minor league baseball team to go to. And I think that sort of thing is very exciting. And the fact that it's a new ballpark at baseball's highest level. Wichita had been Double-A before, and they've been playing in a ballpark, which I would have loved to have visited, Lawrence Dumont Ballpark, built in 1934. I'm sure it had its charms. But for Wichita to get a ballpark the likes of which that city has never seen, a brand new AAA ballpark, I think is pretty exciting. They haven't had AAA since the 80s, I believe, when the defunct American Association, they had a team called the Aeros, AEROS, and that referenced the aviation industry in Wichita. So I think that's going to be the most exciting market. It's someone asked me today, like, what stadium are you looking most forward to visiting? And I said Wichita, because I've never been to Kansas in a professional context, and this gives me a reason to visit Kansas and gives me a reason to go to Wichita where I've never been. And going to new places is great, and I love going to as many new places as possible, and I think most people do. So I think that's going to be the most exciting, and to see how they bring the wind surge to life, because minor league baseball team names have been weird for a while, but wind surge, without that sort of animal or sort of obvious anthropomorphic tie-in is a little more unclear how this brand is going to come to life, and that makes it more interesting to me.
It's going to be intriguing. The 4 ballparks that will open again in Wichita, Rocket City, the Trash Pandas. I feel like the Trash Pandas have been around for a decade. They have literally yet to play a single game, which I find kind of funny. But also Fredericksburg,
it does
Virginia,
feel
like
that.
Right? Like, they've been around forever. They announced that team name a couple of years ago, and they have yet to actually, before this, they were barely even a front office, because they were still running the operations elsewhere, and there was no ballpark, and kind of like trying to establish the identity of a team that didn't yet exist. But if we feel like old friends with the Trash Pandas, and they have yet to even play a game.
Yeah, I think that ties into the fact that I think when they first got the ballpark effort going in Madison, Alabama, the original timeline was to have it open for the 2019 season. So they got ahead on the branding, thinking they might debut in 2019. And then when it became clear that the ballpark would not be ready in 2019, they'd still gone far enough along on the branding that they said, let's get it out here. So that was, roughly a year ago, probably a little more, that they debuted that name. And it is kind of funny. That name has been with us for so long that we still have not yet to see the Trash Pandas actually play a game, even though it feels like they've been friends and confidants for quite some time.
We've gotten to know you so well over the last couple of years, Trash Pandas. So you can check out that story batting around at MILB.com right now. MILB.com/Ben'sBiz is where you can find all of Ben's stuff. And it is nearly Thanksgiving, which is crazy. We're recording this a week exactly before Thanksgiving. Next week, everybody's going to be off to places determined for the Thanksgiving holiday. Ben, what are you thankful for in the biz these days?
Well, Sam kind of brought up that topic to me earlier, and I was like, yeah, I'll brainstorm. I'll think about, something clever, try to think of, some specific topic I'm thankful for. But then, I thought, hey, I'll keep it simple. I am thankful. Well, I'm thankful for you guys. I think leading this podcast every week is no small feat, and takes a lot of coordination, especially with you traveling all over the place, Tyler. So I think I'm thankful for Sam and Tyler for holding this thing together, cultivating an audience, and doing a bang-up exemplary job with this podcast. And as an extension of that, because, I'm part of it, but I'm kind of you just tell me when to show up, and then I talk for a little bit.
True.
So I don't.
You're a valued member of the podcast.
Yeah, I believe I am, and I won't argue that point. But, let's face it. If we made a pie chart of labor expenditures related to this podcast, I would just have a little sliver in that pie chart. So, just want to give a shout out to you. And if you're listening to this and you think, I really do appreciate those guys, tell them. It's Tyler and Sam. You can reach out to them. They're on Twitter. They got emails. They're all over the place. And as an extension of that, I am thankful just for the people who read my work, and I've said this before, but who I see a lot of the same people on Twitter every day, in such a divisive online climate where people are always arguing, that I feel like I've been able to carve out this little slice where people are just cool and respectful. And I see people, especially on Twitter, who I know met through kind of following Milb and you guys and myself. And I know, like, I see that guy commenting, and he has the same likes I have. And I know there's been a lot of at least like online friendships created, through this world that we're a part of. And I love sort of cultivating that. I hope some of those people meet in real life. I love meeting in real life the people who follow our stuff through traveling. And I'm just thankful that we've got this little world we can share, and that it's nationwide, and that we can draw in people from so many walks of life through so many different places all over the country. And I'm truly thankful for that. So thank you if you're listening to this. I mean it in all sincerity. No snark, no smarm. Thank you.
I like that. We're thankful for you too, just so you know.
Hey, cool. Thanks.
Give us a rundown. What else is going on? Another mention of the sweepstakes I was told to bring up.
Oh, yeah. We got the Win Ben Stuff sweepstakes. Thank you for that compulsory reference.
It's just like, that thing.
Well, the problem is I wasn't in on recording last week, so I was like, wait, what sweepstakes? But then I remembered as I started to say it. So it's just we're pulling back the curtain on how my brain is still very jet lagged.
Yeah, well, no problem. Yeah, let's talk about that very quickly. We're actually moving to a new office, us MILB.com folks and a lot of other folks. And in conjunction with that, I'm giving away a lot of the minor league swag that I had in bags and stacked up and folded and in boxes around my desk. And unfortunately, if you're listening to this, it's going to be too late to enter this week's contest, which is a great one.
I'm really angry that you're giving this away and not giving it to me.
Well, Sam, I hate to say it, but it's the Fresno Grizzlies Coming to Fresno, the Coming to America theme night, Zamunda jersey, a fitted hat, and a Zamunda pin. Big time stuff. And Sam, I hate to tell you, but all that stuff was just in a bag.
I know it was. That's what I'm upset about.
Literally right next to your desk, there is an empty cubicle between myself and Sam, and he was sitting near these items that he desired that he could have really just taken at any time with no problem. But he didn't know they were there, and now I'm giving away on Twitter. That's Win Ben Hill Stuff Part 2. It's going to be a little too late for that one, but we got 4 more installments coming up. Check it out on Twitter. The tweets come from the MILB site, MILB.com, and then all you have to do is retweet the tweet, and you're eligible to win. And make sure you're following Milb and myself at Ben's Biz. And I've accumulated some good stuff, and I felt a little guilty, giving some of this stuff away because people would give it to me. And when you get a gift, you don't want to re-gift it. But the bottom line is, you can only wear so many hats, literally, and have so many jerseys. And we live in New York City, and space is at a premium, and moving to a new office, space is at a premium. So let's give it away to people who love minor league baseball, i.e. you, the listener, and those of your ilk. So Win Ben Stuff every week, 4 more installments. Check it out on Twitter. Follow at Milb. Follow me at Ben's Biz. Win my stuff. I am happy to give it to you. And I will send a personalized note to everyone who wins, and I'm sure that will be suitable for framing, provided you are have very, very low standards for the things that you frame.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Sam. Good night from 5V, as in victory.
It's 4:00 in the afternoon. It's basically dark here. It's the off season.
It's I'm fully on board. Let's get rid of daylight savings time.
Yeah, can we just stop with this? Come on.
Yeah, it was developed at a time when people needed to wake up early, and that's great. But our society and our economy has shifted to other jobs, and when we all get out of work at 5 or 6, and it's depressingly dark already.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for us anymore.
It's not helping.
Sorry. We've outlived it. Yeah.
Unbelievable. We talked about this with Ben last segment. Thanksgiving coming up. We will not be doing a show next week. So what are you thankful for in this world we inhabit?
Yeah, we won't be with you guys next week. So hopefully everybody has a great Thanksgiving wherever that holiday takes you and with whomever it takes you. But we just kind of wanted to end the show this week just saying, we're grateful not only for you guys, as Ben mentioned. Ben hit on a lot of great points. I'm thankful for Ben every week doing this and bringing his perspective on minor league baseball to the table and keeping not only you guys informed, but us informed. Ben explains a lot of things to me that, the way my brain works, it wouldn't quite connect, but he does his job incredibly well, and I'm thankful for him. I'm thankful for Tyler. Every week, the show wouldn't be the same without him. And if I ever had to edit this podcast, it would not be great. There would be no bumper music. It would just be me saying, "Okay, here's the next part," and that would be it. And it would not be nearly as fun. That goes unsaid, but I'm going to say it anyways. But on the broader scale, I'm just grateful for minor league baseball. There's no other sport, maybe hockey. If you follow hockey, there's the AHL, the ECHL, something like that. And the NBA has the G League, and other sports kind of make it work. The soccer has, the B teams and stuff like that, but there really is no other sport in which you really get wrapped up in prospects and seeing guys grow and seeing them come up and seeing them come to your towns and to your cities and, not only growing with them as fans of the Detroit Tigers or the Miami Marlins or the Colorado Rockies or whatever, you are fans of the Kannapolis Cannonballers or the, Rocky Mountain Vibes or the Tacoma Rainiers. It's international, but it's also local. It brings out a fandom that I think is one of the best in sports. And that extends to us here, at MILB.com, as Ben mentioned, but also to the podcast and the way you guys have reached out. This is a special thing that we have going here in this sport. It's really great to see. And every year I try to make a point of mentioning this, but Thanksgiving coming up, I think it's a good time to say we are thankful for what we have here in minor league baseball and for all of you out there listening and participating and being fans in whatever way that means.
Could not agree more. I echo your thoughts. I'm very thankful for you as well. You're the only one who makes this show sound smart on a hosting basis. Obviously, Ben does the same as well, but being the one who is tasked with the editing portion of it, I'm glad I'm not tasked with the smart portion of it because you do that infinitely better than I do. And completely agree. Our minor league baseball family and all of you who have tuned in from week to week and season to season to hear us talk about things like this, we are very privileged to work in the line in which we do. And hopefully we'll get to do that for a long time to come. So for Benjamin Hill and for Sam Dykstra, our big thanks to Ben Braymer as well, who you can find on Twitter at B_Braymer, by the way, in case you were so inclined at the end of our interview to go find some more of Ben in your life, if you're a Nats fan or otherwise. And that'll do it for all those guys. My name is Tyler Maun. We'll talk to you in a couple of weeks. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.